Welcome back. Village of Bartlett Committee of the Whole meeting for February 18th, 2014. I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk please call the roll.
Trustee Ahrens, absent. Kammerer?
Here.
Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranke?
Here.
Shipman?
Here.
President Wallace?
Here. The only items on the committee agenda this evening are under Planning and Zoning. Chairman Kammerer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Planning and Zoning Committee has 4 items this evening. The first one is the Artist Senior Living of Bartlett concept plan. The second would be the BP Gas Subway Dunkin' Donuts site plan amendment. The third would be the Seasons Produce Market 2 special use for outdoor sales. And the fourth would be the Bartlett Economic Development Commission report, TIF discussion. And at this time, I'd ask the staff to summarize their recommendations and the EDC report. You want to start with the recommendations? We'll start with number 1. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
The first project that you have in front of you is something you've never seen before in terms of the review of it. It's called a concept plan review for the Artist Senior Living Center. Jay Hicks is here on behalf of Artist Senior Living as well as his attorney, and they are the concept plan review. Just step back for those of you who have not seen one before. It's generally a proposal that the petitioner puts forth and provides you with the location of the project, the kind of design, and the idea that they have for the project. In this case, Artist Senior Living is a memory care facility. Almost forgot what it was. And it's on a 10-acre piece of property on the east side of 59, south of Apple Valley Drive. The unique part of this project is that Artist only wants to develop 4.9 acres of the site and leave the remaining portion of the site, almost a little over 5 acres, to be developed at a future time. They would most likely enter into a subdivision at that time when they have a buyer and a user for that property. I've put up the proposed concept site plan. As you can see, the senior memory facility is 72 units. It would be in the front, southwest corner of the property. Detention would be to the north a bit. There's an access drive proposed on Route 59. At this point, IDOT is looking at only allowing a right-in, right-out, which was what the previous developer had for that site. And as you can see, the remaining back portion of the property would stay vacant. There is a small wetland on the site which they do not intend on touching. Some elevations of the building, typical one-story site, secure facility. Artist is out east. They have other projects out east. They picked Bartlett because they like our demographics. We've talked to them over the course of a number of months in developing this. They've worked with IDOT on the access. They are also hoping to get the possible cross-access agreement with the property to the north where that little shopping center is that has the orthodontist facility. Those people at this point have not been very cooperative in trying to obtain a cross-access. Ideally, you would have some type of access through that property, and then you could access Apple Valley Drive, could open the remaining portion of the property for development. Generally, that's the concept. The property, if they do proceed further, is Zone PD. We had previously had an independent senior living project on that site that had a density of 18 dwelling units per acre. It's attached residential. That's what the site plan and the PUD plan for that property was. If they proceed, they would have to amend that PUD and then come forward before you with a formal amendment and change the actual PUD plan. It would require a public hearing, going to the Planning Commission full engineering and the whole 9 yards. That's why they chose to take the concept plan route. And as I said, Mr. Hickson's attorney are here if you have any questions for them.
Are there any questions by members of the board?
They don't want to go second floor? I mean, you'd get more
I'm
people.
not, I'll let them answer that. They're expert in this field.
Good evening. Jay Hicks with Artis Senior Living. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Well, I was just thinking, I mean, we have a couple other communities for senior living, and they're at least 2 or 3 stories, and, it's just, I guess, more bang for your buck.
Well, it's really an operational reason. If you've ever had to work with a family member who's had Alzheimer's or dementia, there's frequently a propensity to wander, and there was a time where people were sedated or restrained. One of the features of our building, and we do this wherever we can, is to keep it one story. Within a very secure environment, secure perimeter, people are allowed to wander inside and outside. So you don't eliminate that propensity to wander, you just contain it and manage it and allow people to do it within a very secure location. So if you take it to second story, that detracts from the ability from a resident to get that immediate access over certainly indoor spaces and particularly outdoor spaces. So we always, in almost every instance, have developed single-story facilities.
Is this the first facility that Artis has opened in the Chicagoland area, or do you have others as well?
No, we're a relatively new company, but industry veterans. We all got our start with Manor Care many years ago. We haven't been affiliated with Manor Care since, I think, the Bainham family sold their interest in 1998. But the facility we develop is sort of an extension of a facility we started and developed at Manor Care called Arden Courts, and there are a number of Chicago Arden Courts facilities. I think Glen Ellen has the closest facility. After the Bainham family, it's a long story, I won't bore you with it now, but when we left Manor Care in 1998, we all went and did different things, but we're really captivated by the need for a high-quality private pay Alzheimer's facility like we developed at Manor Care. The new Manor Care wasn't interested in expanding that. We all got together. We had gone on to other professions, other jobs, but decided to get back together and take this product, make some improvements and enhancement to it based on what we learned when we developed Arden Courts, and that's what you see here. So that's a long-winded way of saying, as Artis, no. Our first construction start is underway right now in Cincinnati. We have another one coming up in Boca Raton, followed by one in Boston and one in New Jersey. But we're excited about Chicago. Some of us on the Artis team have spent a lot of time in Chicago, and there is still opportunities here where previous providers of these services or even Manor Care have missed, essentially. And the demographics continue to get more compelling for our use. So, again, a long-winded way of saying in Chicago, we're planning on developing a few facilities in Chicago. We've got a site in Chicago under contract, and we have a couple of other sites under contract as well.
Very commendable. I don't think people realize the tremendous need for this type of facility in the metro area. Really, I think there's a huge need that this could really help.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. We spent some time looking at, obviously, site-related issues, but we spent a lot of time looking at the market, looking at who else is in the marketplace providing services for seniors, and you need a full complement of services, and we think there's a lack of somebody currently doing what we do. So we're excited about allowing Bartlett residents to stay in Bartlett and not go to adjacent communities, or if you're a caregiving children, the ability to bring your parent from someplace else to stay in Bartlett with you. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Would there be any plans to put a fence around part of this area? You said that they would be wandering outside, and I don't want anyone to wander onto 59 or,
Nor would I. But it's hard to see from here, but surrounding essentially the rear of the facility and the better part of what I'll call the north and south side of the facility is a fence. What we propose to do, we haven't talked to staff about this, is an 8-foot fence. We'll do something board on board, brick piers interrupting it with lattice on the top for a total of 8 feet is what we prefer to do. and that secures that perimeter. The entrance is keypad entry only. We have a very good resident-to-staff ratio to help prevent that sort of thing from happening. But whether you're on Route 59 or you're on a residential street, obviously having a resident leave when they're not supposed to be leaving or they're not accompanied by a family member is a problem. And we've spent a lot of time working on that over the years to I couldn't sit up here, and I don't think anyone could tell you they could promise that's impossible, it could never happen, but I can tell you we go to great lengths, and the tinkering we've done with the building and the staffing protocols and the training are all designed to catch those sorts of issues early on.
Thank you.
How many, go ahead.
Have you talked to IDOT about the option of having a right-hand turn lane off of Route 59 into the facility?
We have. We've traded correspondence. I haven't spoken with them personally, but we've traded letters. Their preference was that we work out something to the north to eliminate the need for another curb cut onto 59. And failing that, and I'll ask maybe some of my colleagues to comment on that, but failing that, we were directed to a right-in, right-out only onto 59. And fortunately, our residents don't drive insofar as we're not a big traffic generator. Not every use could live with a right-in, right-out, but we're just dealing with staff and guests. If we were an independent facility, that might have been a somewhat different issue for us, where residents do drive.
Well, I'm very familiar with this stretch of Route 59. My home's not too far from here, and this is sort of, this area is sort of the entree, the preview to a choke point at 59 and Stearns. And the reason why I ask you is because it seems to me if you don't have a dedicated right-hand turn lane off of Route 59, the traffic there, it could be potentially dangerous as people slow down and make a right into your facility.
Deceleration lane if you're going northbound. Yeah, we haven't worked on the detailed engineering, but I would agree. I think that's something that we would want to have, and I would hope not only would be optional, but would be required by IDOT as well. So.
Okay. I also noted you have this future lot number 2, which is a little bit more than half the overall site plan, and you indicated that you have a list of uses that would not be permitted.
But we haven't developed that list yet. It's a concept, really, and that's part of what I'm bringing you tonight. You know, we were hoping to identify, we only need a portion of the site. We're hoping to find who would use the balance of the site very early on, and we've talked to a number of different people. No takers yet for a variety of reasons. It's the classic chicken and egg. Do we wait to go forward till we find someone in the back? Working on access issues, working on any number of issues, finally had to simply stop and say, I need to move forward, come to you tonight in concept and tell you what I'm thinking, which is our building on that approximately 4+ acres in the front. What I'm hoping we can do, in working with the neighbors and the adjacent users, the church, come up with a list of uses that should be excluded, that they would find objectionable, but then find a list of uses that would, after going through the appropriate review process, be acceptable neighbors. And I think at least we view ourselves as residential. I think when you end up with a list, I think the list that we find acceptable and unacceptable is probably going to be reading pretty closely to what adjacent neighbors may find acceptable and unacceptable. So we haven't prepared that list yet. I just wanted to float the concept with you tonight, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to do that. And reach concurrence, knowing that you'd have a development application to come back before you where you can work on the particulars of it.
And one last question. Is there any safety or security reason why you have the parking in front facing 59 versus in the back?
Convenience, really, for our guests more than our staff. It's worked well for us. Sometimes we'll get comments about putting the parking in the back. That's very problematic for us. Frequently, a lot of our visitors are elderly, maybe not as mobile as they used to be, and by the time you park in the back and work your way around to the front, it's a bit of a distance. So it's convenience more than anything else. We'd be happy to work with berming, screening, and whatnot to conceal the pavement and conceal the vehicles to the extent we reasonably can.
Supposed to be quieter and back for the residents.
Beg your pardon?
It'll be quieter and back for the residents that are there.
Well, we're a quiet use. I mean, we had to sort of get comfortable with that 59 location, quite frankly.
59 is going to be loud, and you know, you're here in the garden and,
We may provide some noise attenuation, quite frankly. But yeah, we're a quiet user. We've located a lot closer to single-family detached residential than we are here, and I think our experience has been we've been very good neighbors. No swimming pools, no barbecues all hours of the night. People frequently prefer us over more single-family, quite frankly.
How many total residents?
72.
72. And in your history of these, I guess I would come at it from economic standpoint for Bartlett. Is it frequent that guests come in and visit and then are allowed to go out and have dinner with your residents and then bring them back? Or is it a full-service meal service? I'm just trying to get a feel for what kind of revenue the village may generate from this location.
We could, I think there'd be a way to sit down and look at what the tax impact is. We think will be a net benefit is usually what we find. We don't generate children. We don't generate a lot of traffic. We do have kitchen facilities, central kitchen. Meals are bused to the four wings where the residents live. We try to keep it as very home-like as possible, not a large cavernous dining hall, but a very residential setting to the extent that we're able to achieve that in each of the four wings. They live there. That's their home. Every meal, every service that they could conceivably need at home is provided there, but obviously guest residents are free to come 24 hours a day, and obviously taking mom or grandma out for a meal or shopping is something that's very good and encouraged.
Yeah, it's great to know.
I think I share Trustee Ranke's, I don't want to use the phrase concern, curiosity about the future Lot 2. I would be very interested to see kind of what your plans are if you do bring this back in front of us. I don't know. I get concerns about that as well. And then the future Lot 3, Jim, that would be an expansion of the detention area.
Okay. If they were to develop in the back. So they'd put their detention initially for the first front unit, and then they'd have the ability to expand it.
I think what I'd be coming back with I can say, I think some certainty, I wouldn't be coming back with a detailed plan for the back. What I would propose to come back with is a list of acceptable uses. Residential is acceptable. Car wash is not acceptable. Mini storage is not acceptable. And maybe some performance criteria. Building up to this height is appropriate, but anything above that is inappropriate. That's how I would approach it. Give me some room to work that takes out the most noxious things that somebody wouldn't want to see, but leaves me with some room to go out and be able to market the back with some certainty that if a superior site plan is submitted, that there's some chance of getting approval. That's what I would propose to bring back to accompany the detailed plan that I submit for my building.
But that's not necessarily a guaranteed development. That's just a list of things that you kind of think might go there. A wish list, if you will.
A list that hopefully you find acceptable, and if a superior site plan came in that drew on one of those acceptable uses, that they'd have a good chance for approval.
I guess my concern, I'll spell it out a little bit more, is that, this is Route 59 frontage, and I've talked a little bit with the administrator about the uniqueness of this parcel, and, we're not likely going to get a strip mall in or anything like that. That's fine. We can deal with that. But it does seem like the prime end of it is where your facility is going to be. I understand that. But if the prime end is going to be there, then my concern is kind of what's left. And what do we put back there?
Well, that's kind of my concern, too, or I'm every bit as interested as you. I didn't, it's an odd 10-acre piece that's been sitting vacant for a long time. And usually when you come across a piece like that, there's a reason for it. And I've been trying to get myself around it for a number of months now and decided.
I don't want to discourage you. I'm just letting you know kind of where my mind's at in this.
Sure. I think what I've done is said, if I can just come up with that band of uses that are acceptable, excluding things that we know you wouldn't want to see, their staff wouldn't want to see, their neighbors wouldn't want to see there, that what's left is something we can all live with. And I defer to staff on what the intent isn't to somehow sneak in a use that you have no standing to disapprove later. That's not the intent here. It's simply knowing that invariably you, staff, would ask, what are you doing with the balance, and me honestly saying, I don't know. But I don't want to hold up my facility until I don't want to let the perfect be the enemy of the very good here, is how I look at it.
Can I ask, I don't know if you considered it or not, or perhaps you did, and there's a reason for it. Is there some reason why you hadn't considered putting your complex in the back part of the acreage?
Visibility, in large part. I mean, we like that presence. It's not like a retail user, but I think the different times I've been in assisted living, been in it much of my career, but in and out, it seems that visibility counts more and more in the thinking of people in this industry, and that's been our own experience. 59 is I think, going to be a more heavily traveled street than we've ever located on, but we've got our heads around that and think we can live with it. But in coming with that traffic, we decided we wanted the visibility to come with it. It's not like retail shopping, obviously, when you decide to place a loved one in our facility, but it does count.
Do you envision your company actually doing the development on Lot 2?
Probably not. We have visions of doing general assisted living, more general assisted living, which is what we've done in the past. We've never done independent. We've thought about it, but we're just not there yet. We're 100% dedicated to memory care right now. So I doubt that we'd do something with it. And we're prepared to take the property down without a user identified. So I just want to be clear, our purchase isn't conditioned upon somebody buying the rest from it. We'll sort that out later. And I don't know how long that later is going to take. Yeah, I mean, maybe we can work out something with the church. I've talked with them. Maybe they'd be interested in part of it. Obviously, whenever you have extra property, the logical people to talk to are your neighbors in terms of selling it, but we haven't gotten that far. So maybe there's a solution there. I don't know.
One of the issues that I find potentially problematic is however you develop Lot 2, it looks like, as part of the concept, you might end up shunting traffic through the parking lot of the adjacent strip mall and then dumping that traffic onto Apple Valley Drive to permit those vehicles to make a left-hand turn and go south on Route 59. I mean, I understand cross-access easements. You know, I understand that part, but I think it's potentially problematic.
I think it could be. We have no access rights to the north and through the shopping center into Apple Valley. That's why we're proposing the right-in, right-out. I think with whatever we propose, I think the traffic generation and the user will have to be appropriate to that kind of access. I mean, there are a number of users that may not choose to be there because they don't have that left turn access. That in itself in the marketplace may preclude some people from wanting to be there. But, you know, I would propose that if we come up with a list of acceptable and unacceptable uses, that whoever comes in with a plan still has to demonstrate that the access that they have to live with is sufficient for the traffic generation coming from that use. And I would hope your process would have opportunity for you to say that, which is maybe you like the use, but you don't like the trip generation coming out of it, and it's inadequate for a right-in, right-out, in which case that application wouldn't get approved.
Are you opposed to them putting the sign up by your area?
We haven't looked at signage yet, to be honest with you.
No, I mean, someone buying the second parcel, who's going to know they're behind you?
Oh, I see. You mean a for sale sign?
No.
Or what do you? I'm sorry.
Say, whatever, Jameson Park. No one knows how to get there unless there's a sign on your front piece.
Oh, I see.
Or whatever business.
Simple answer is yes. I would suspect whoever in the back would want some signage on the front, assuming your ordinance permits that. Quite frankly, that's something we hadn't worked out. Hadn't worked out yet. We just wanted to get to you and bounce this concept past you, not knowing how you'd react to it.
Thank you for bouncing. Keep bouncing.
But I appreciate the opportunity to do this, you know, before I get any further into it, to come and just get a reality check with the elected officials it's a good problem. Regardless of what you say at the end of this conversation, it's helpful to be able to come and do this. I would encourage you to continue to give people the opportunity to do this.
there any other questions? Do we have anything else, Jim?
I have nothing else. I think Jay is getting the input that he's looking for, and he has to make a decision as to whether or not he wants to submit something formal or not. And that's kind of where he's at.
I haven't heard anything that's really dissuaded me from continuing with the process. And I'm looking hard at body language right now, but I don't see anything that says don't submit something. No commitment, but I think I'm inclined, based on what I'm hearing, to stick with the process. No guarantees, but that's what I'm inclined to do based
Well,
on.
we've lived here long enough where we've driven by an empty lot for so many years that
I can imagine.
I think something there would be okay.
We'll look forward to your next worst rain.
Yeah,
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time tonight.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to number 2.
The second project that we have is at the northwest corner of Stearns and County Farm Road in the existing BP gas station. The petitioner is Eric Carlson on behalf of the owner. He is the architect as well. It is a second amendment to the approved site plan. This BP gas station, in its first amendment back in 2001, was given approval for a special use for a car wash. The petitioner never built the car, or the owner never built the car wash. This petitioner just built the gas station, and how it shows on this site plan here, with access onto County Farm and onto Stearns. This was the approved amendment with the car wash. That was never built. Now, for the second amendment, what the petitioner would like to do is add 815 square feet of building space to this building. They would allow for them to have a drive-through window for a Dunkin' Donuts, and then, which also received a special use some time ago. And they would also add a Subway restaurant on the inside of the building. Generally, the architecture would stay in character with what is already there. There has been there's going to be a number of changes to the interior, but as you can see, the elevation on the outside is just expanding the building outwards. Here's the floor plan, which shows the Dunkin' Donuts, primarily in the, had it backwards here. The Dunkin' Donuts would be on the south side where the drive-through is, and the Subway would be on the west side of the existing expansion. The convenience store that's in there would stay the same. Seating and would be 22 seats combined for the Dunkin' Donuts and as well as the Subway. The existing gas station has 3 combined uses then. You'd have the convenience store, gas station, Subway, and Dunkin' Donuts. The key here is they all have different peak hours, so that obviously the gas station is used primarily their peak hours in the evening. Subway is lunchtime, Dunkin' Donuts is in the morning. So the traffic pattern and the parking and that is pretty good in terms of allowing them to switch back and forth. There would be 7 additional spaces added to accommodate the parking and what is needed. The drive-through would require, let me just get back to that. The drive-through would require a bypass lane, and as it comes out on the south side, as in the Stearns, there would be a keep left and a no right turn to minimize any vehicle conflicts of people coming into the site off of Stearns. We worked on that quite a bit with our village engineer and Roberta and with the architect, and they feel that that would accommodate the people going through the drive-through and minimize the conflicts with anybody coming into the site. They would have to do landscaping and engineering, which have to be finalized by staff, and we've approved the photometric plan for the lighting. This is a site plan amendment. It would go on to the Plan Commission. The petitioner, Eric Carlson, is here, and so is the owner. If you have any questions, they'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions from the board? There's never any desire now with this drive-through to pursue the car wash in any way, then, right? Is that,
This pretty much ends the car wash hope for this site, because it takes up the space where the car wash would be, it'd take up the drive aisle. I don't know, at one time, when the car wash, the drive-through car washes were pretty needed, there wasn't a lot of them in town. Since that 2001, there's been a couple built. The Oil Masters added one. We've had the car wash on 59. I think Streamwood's got one. So I think they decided the demand had gone down.
On this, so if you're going to Dunkin' Donuts, you go around the people in line for the subway window, but it says temporary loading. Is that going to be enough space for them to get around?
Subway really doesn't have a window.
Subway doesn't have a window.
No, Dunkin' Donuts is the primary drive-through. They don't make sandwiches that quick, so. No, the intent is for Dunkin' Donuts.
One place does.
Yeah, to go in and eat and grab the sandwich, and Dunkin' Donuts would be.
Okay.
But I guess you could do it one through the window.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so,
Now, half the fun is pointing out what you want, though.
that's right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's at their choice.
So we're going to throw away the car wash and up the ante to a Subway and a Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, it's a good use for this property. It's, as you know, it's a high-volume
Jim,
corner.
I've turned right into this gas station several times. Are we sure there's enough room here with a car coming out of the gas station, a car coming into the gas station, and having these cars running along the side of that building?
That was a big concern with our village engineer and our planners.
Because then that person at the end of the driveway's got to either make a U-turn, or they've got to go out the other. No, I'm not too familiar with too many people that go out on County Farm Road, but
Well, what they'd have to do ideally is they go back around the building or they go out on County Farm. The signage prevents them from doing a U-turn. If you drive like me, that sign is just an advisory sign, but we believe that there is,
You heard that, Chief? Got it, thank you.
there is,
Put up those
anybody's
airport
tried-
spikes.
if anybody's
Right.
tried to
They
navigate
won't do
the
it
drive-through at the
once.
Dunkin' Donuts over on 59 in the morning, that is
That's a
a
nightmare.
wreck waiting to happen.
And
Oh, yeah.
they're sitting out there.
this one will be
going into
better than that.
McDonald's.
What we did and what the architect did is he extended the barrier curb further east to match the edge of that island, if you can see, and so that it kind of forces people further into the site to prevent that. Originally, the island, the barrier island was stubbed out there, so it was like an automatic come out and go right. But they are adding the no right turn sign, and we believe they can still manage it. But you're right, Mayor, there's a lot of conflicts there, and as it is now. It's a good use for the site, a good expansion. The owners are anxious to get these uses in there. The Dunkin' Donuts has looked at this property for several years to try to get something there. At one time proposed a standalone in a subdivision that was around there. Subway is always popular, so.
I'm just, I totally agree. I'm just curious as to the plans would seem to have made more sense to me. I'm an architect, but having the drive-through on the other side of that building, so you're exiting the drive-through and you can actually get out of there.
What they run into on that is they wanted to keep the convenience store as is.
Okay.
So they didn't want to tear up the whole inside, so that's what kind of forced them. If you go in there, you kind of remember on that one side is almost like a little restaurant setup anyway, so that's the side they're reconfiguring, and not, they didn't want to do the coolers, they have all their mechanical equipment for all their pumps and all that, so they didn't want to rework the whole site. Eric's here, sorry.
I can just see, and I totally think it's a great idea. I love to have a Subway that close and a Dunkin' Donuts, but I can just see people trying to make a U-turn and going out that exit, and cars backing up into the intersection of County Farm and Stearns. Just from the sheer volume of traffic that the other Dunkin' Donuts generate in the morning, that seems to be something we might want to take a look at.
Maybe Eric could address it. I just will say it meets our stacking requirements the way they have it. They've got 6 cars stacked in
What's the litmus test? 6?
6 is our, I don't know if you can see them, but they kind of shadowed them in there.
Yeah.
That shows the stacking in the window as well as what we require.
You'll have 10 or 12 on a...
You could stack all the way, you
Saturday.
could.
You stack the other north side.
And then you get people in, okay.
Right. Duncan's done studies in their order from order at the menu board through pickup is 90 seconds, and that's their high. They try to stay within that and push all their franchisees to stay within that 90 seconds or below. So in a typical scenario, 8 to 10 cars at their busiest time is about all they have stacked up, and we've got it about 10 to 12 that can stack along that side of the building, that north side of the building, all the way around the west side. So we do kind of, because of the higher volume, we kind of prepare that extra stacking there so that you prevent that backup on that. Back to the one other comment in regards to why we didn't do anything on the other side. Number one was to gain that stacking, but number two is there's all of the electrical panels and everything are on that northwest corner of the building, so that would be extremely expensive to try to relocate that stuff.
Any other questions for the board?
I think you're looking to... I just think that it would be worth it to do a little bit more careful study of how somebody's going to go through that drive-through and get out back onto Stearns.
I think you fix that by putting a pork chop over here where there's a right in and a right out only.
And your pork chop.
Otherwise, people will be making a U-turn there and colliding with the people who are coming into.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great idea. I love the fact that it's going in there, but I just hope that it doesn't clog up.
At the intersection of County Farm and Stearns Road, that's where it actually begins the Stearns Expressway, where everybody tries to do 80 miles an hour because the right lane disappears while your traffic's trying to come out.
Yes.
That's going to be fun.
Are you referring to the people exiting? I'm sorry?
I've driven that hundreds of times, dropping kids off in the morning.
Down Stearns?
Yes, both sides.
Heading eastbound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I understanding that there's no way you could flip-flop the Dunkin' and the Subway? Because it seems to me if the Subway was on the south side of the building and the Dunkin' was on the west, you'd have to push your menu board back up a little bit more, I guess, but... And I don't know anything about architecture or moving electrical panels or anything else. So
no.
I'm just asking, it seems to me that alleviates that problem because then those cars are coming out just kind of southbound through that chute and they can go wherever they need to in the lot or out or at the exit or anything else like that.
Yeah, there's a couple of thoughts on that. Number one is when Dunkin' approves their sites, they go through an extensive review and they require that they've got that front corner. We went through an earlier proposal with this site when we first started looking at that and proposed that same location, and this was on this site as well as a different site that I was working on that was another Dunkin' Donuts, putting the drive-through on the back, and they declined the site because of that, because they didn't have that front corner.
It just depends which way you're coming. You get an awful lot of traffic coming from the west.
Well,
Maybe somebody else.
yeah. Well, Dunkin' wouldn't approve that if that was a discussion at the time, is that they would not approve that if they didn't have that front corner.
There's the possibility we might not approve it the other way. So.
Yeah. Well, understand. Yeah, I think we've tried to work through some of that site. There's another site that has some similarities to this. It's not one of this owner's sites, but it's the one in West Chicago off of Roosevelt and Washington. And they've got, coming off of Washington, you come in and you loop around. It's a right in, right out on 38 only. So you kind of have that same traffic.
I'm intimately familiar with that location.
Yeah.
The difference there is when you come out of that the drive-through, there's parking.
Correct.
So there's a whole
Maybe it's
additional buffer before you get into the two-way traffic.
maybe it's just...
Yeah.
So I think I share the concerns with some of the other trustees here.
Sure.
As far as just the location of that final exit chute or whatever you call it, out a window there. and then the two-way traffic trying to get out or into a lot at the same time. Essentially, with 3 lanes kind of all converging there at the same time.
Yeah, which is why we're pushing them north across the front of the building. There's a left turn only sign, there's a stop sign, so that they coming out of the drive-through, they will stop with a left turn only sign, so they should loop to the left. They should not do that 180 degrees, so they should be completely out of the traffic of that.
But most people, I wouldn't say most, but a large percentage have to go east. And what they're going to have to do is cut over to the 2 lanes when they get back on County Farm to turn left.
To get to Elgin Harry, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, I mean, I used to drive that all the time during rush hour. Is there any way they could put their window on the corner there?
Yeah.
Put the sign on the side. That doesn't matter. They're going to see Dunkin' Donuts. You put it on the side, then they can come straight down. It doesn't flush everyone to the front trying to cut over.
Yeah. It's really hard.
Can I have you say your concern again regarding the county farm?
Yeah, up there.
I missed that.
This window right here.
Yeah.
Eliminates this stuff. Still have a long line. Then doesn't send everyone over here trying to get over the 3rd lane without getting hit.
Okay, I see. You're referring to exiting onto County Farm,
Exiting
trying
onto
to turn
Stearns or County Farm.
turn right, and then make that left turn.
Because what you're doing now is you're sending everyone to County Farm. The people that were going east, and there's a lot in the morning for Dunkin' Donuts, they're going there for the morning,
Right.
so there's going to be the traffic. They're going to be cutting through. And County Farm, you have to get over to the 3rd lane to turn to go east. Have you been
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Not to be condescending, have you been
Right.
there in the morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah. I guess the thought would be is that they would come out of Stearns Road to head east as opposed to trying to cross that traffic on County Farm.
Would there be a way to, as you continue to come out the drive-through, and you come to basically the stop there where you just go straight as you go into County Farm, that there would be some sort of a concrete median that curved with that, forcing you basically to go to the north? You couldn't just go straight to the east. Follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, at the edge of the drive-through.
The edge, following the contour of the I don't know what
the
you call
island.
it.
The island.
And there was the island right there, yeah, and then just bending with it. So the cars could not go straight right out to the east. They would have to go, they could still cut through by the gas pumps, I suppose, but it would keep the cars from actually just going straight and trying to make a quick right and turn back around and come out on Stearns.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about doing that as trying to curve that. I mean, we definitely want to try to encourage them to go
North.
to go left,
Yes.
coming out of that drive-through, because that's the direction of people coming in. And if we can get them to go in that direction, then I think we alleviate some of those concerns. But yeah, I mean, if it was a matter of curving that, maybe we lose a parking stall to emphasize that curve a little bit. That really does swoop them out there. That would be something that would be viable.
Right, because then you're forced to go north.
Yeah, you'd have to.
Yeah, you'd have to be very
Right,
convoluted.
you're turning that way anyway. Yeah, that would not be a challenge. I think we've got some extra parking. If we lose one, that's certainly not a big deal to really kind of direct them in that direction.
We could do that redesign. You could show that alternative to the Plan Commission.
Okay. Well,
Because
if there's no-
I'm thinking we've got that extra 9 feet
Right.
of space there, then we can really kind of get them to even trying to come out, they're going to be into that pump island there, so it really wouldn't even be an easy thing to even attempt to do, so we'd really force them out that way.
Right.
I would just say that, staff has heard our concerns. And
Yeah,
Right.
and
Work with the
see-
petitioner and see what you can come up
See
with.
if the Plan Commission has any, maybe they look at these much differently than we do. So see if they have any, if they have nothing additional, then look at it again.
Yeah, if there's no
I just
other...
want to try to have you guys avoid people not going there just because they're
Yeah.
all over the place trying to get in and out of there.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Well,
Which way would you drive, Jim?
if there's no other questions for the petitioner, then I would suggest that we go ahead and move this on to the Plan Commission for their further review.
Thank you.
Okay?
The next project is Seasons Produce Market 2. Julie Kapadukakis is here on behalf of Seasons Produce. They are proposing to open a second Seasons Produce Market on the Bartlett Plaza Shopping Center parking lot, or the Gorski Plaza. This requires a special use permit, similar to what they have on their Route 59 location for outdoor sales. They are going to locate the market just east of the CVS in the parking lot, close to Devon Avenue and the drive aisle on the east side of the property. We looked at various alternatives with the downtown farmers market and encouraged the Seasons Produce people to take this space and make it, kind of privatize that facility and remove it from our village parking lot. They've agreed to work with the Gorskis. The Gorskis are very in favor of doing so, and have offered them the site, I think basically for the electrical costs, if I'm not mistaken, to operate the market. Went through this site with the owners. They chose this as a good location in front of and a visible location in front of Gorski's in the east of the CVS. They're requesting to run from May 1st through November, weather permitting, on Fridays and Saturdays, rather than Saturday and Sunday, which is the other market. And their hours would be slightly different, but more in line with the past farmers market, from noon to 6:30 on Friday and 9 to 6 on Saturday. It would put a 40 by 60-foot tent up, encompassing the area shown. There would be parking, obviously, in the plaza. There's plenty of parking there that's still available. We would do the health inspections. It's in Cook County. There's not prepared food. Primarily, it's going to be produce. Periodic inspections would be required. A permit would be required for the seasonal temp. The Gorskis have granted permission to the petitioner, and they are here. They are here before you prior to going on to the required public hearing for the special use at the Plan Commission. And Julie is here if you have any questions.
Same. One on the board have questions?
How's your new tent?
Well, the only question I might have, I think it's great. I mean, I'm in that shopping center. I think it would be a wonderful addition to our plaza. But as you know, since you've looked at it, during the winter time, we have mounds of snow over on that south side. Have the Gorskis made any comments about snow removal with the tent being there, 40 by taking up a space of that? I mean, we'd still apparently have some place to push the snow to during the winter if we, heaven forbid we get into the winter like this. But, it's it just occurs to me, would that be an issue or not?
I think their intent is they would take the tent down after November, before the snows come.
Right.
They would only leave it up during the May through November period.
All right.
You're suggesting it's going to snow on Halloween?
I'm not. I hope it never snows.
Yeah, hopefully we wouldn't get any big snows in that time frame.
Right.
I understand in your memorandum you said that there's the possibility of considering some of the other vendors. Is that a likelihood, or you don't know, or?
Yes, we will be exploring those opportunities.
They will all be notified that the new farmers market's going to be there. So
Where would they go, or how many?
everything would generally stay in that squared off area.
Okay, so that's not just their produce tent is that size. That's the entire
Right, it's
area.
for any other vendors that they would have from our market. I think if you look on the south, that's, the further south says the produce tent, and that would fit. It's 40 by 60, so those parking spaces are roughly 10 feet wide.
Okay.
So, you know, it would basically be in that southwest corner of that square, and then the vendor tents would be along the front or the north part of that space.
And as I recall, with our previous discussion at the location at 59, there were some concerns about fencing and getting the traffic away, and all that's going to be addressed as well in this.
Yeah, there was, I think at 59, there was traffic coming in to the main entrance to the shopping center. They've not had any issues with it. And they're far enough away from the main entrance. This is more of the secondary entrance in the Gorskys. So that's why they moved away from the CVS.
Will it be the, like, exact same offering at both locations, or do you know if there'll be some differences, or?
Did you want me to step up?
You can if you'd like. That may be better. You can shout from the back if you want. It doesn't matter.
You know, we will be offering the same produce offerings that we do on our main tent at 59 and Stearns, but we will, like we said, explore those opportunities with additional vendors. We are totally open to that and hoping that they'll join us there, and I think that will just make it even better for the town.
My wife would strongly request the knife sharpener, so.
Okay, thank you.
Likely will be cheaper on the DuPage side.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So the tent's going to stay there? Will it stay there like throughout the week?
Yes, it will be
Okay.
standing up until
It's pretty good size.
November, yes.
Okay. So I guess the only other small little factor may be the idea of if there are other events down there, you may have the opportunity to recoup some of your costs from the tent by leasing that out to other events, because it's going to be down there anyway. Because it'll be there through the
It'll be there through Heritage.
festival, Heritage Days.
Yes.
So that's something that you may want to think through between now and when you guys open, and kind of contact some of those folks that have some other events down there.
4th of July parade, I'd try to be open then, and people along the line
Yeah.
might want something to drink.
Right, exactly. Sure, the more the merrier.
Marketing.
Thank you. Renting out for family reunions.
Those are all good ideas. I'm sure
Parties,
Julie's and her
bands.
husband will take advantage of it.
Retirement party, possibly. I don't know.
Well, then I guess
After board meeting, get
on
together.
in.
Plan Commission.
That would be appropriate.
Yes, this will go on to Plan Commission now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you want me to start the script here? I was supposed to read you for your final one.
The last item is the Economic Development Commission recommendations, and at the last meeting, the board kind of went through the different subgroups related to traffic, signage, code enforcement, traffic, pedestrian circulation, safety, the street light and banner and flower baskets up to Oak. Some of those things are works in progress, as well as things that require submitting grant applications. The items related to Arts Commission and Arts Center were postponed for additional information and supplemental information for that. And the board directed staff to concentrate on the TIF district and the formation of a TIF district in the downtown, which was one of the EDC's recommendations. Previously, we had talked about the need for a consultant to do the study, if the board so directs us to. It would obviously take some time to do that. What we've provided to you in the way of background information is there's a TIF fact sheet provided by the Illinois Tax Increment Association, which the village is a member of. There's a consulting company's tax increment financing guide. There are tips on how to create a TIF, what's necessary for creating a TIF. Our downtown TIF closeout report, which was done in April 19th of 2011, showing all the different things that the village accomplished in the previous TIF, from redeveloping the Gorski Plaza to the up to acquiring some of the old factories, doing the environmental cleanup, and encouraging the town center redevelopment, putting in a lot of the infrastructure throughout the downtown and the streetscape work, some of the other projects that the village worked on, and then also a spreadsheet on the TIF facade rebate program, which ran throughout the whole TIF, and the village rebated almost $850,000 and some change back to area businesses for developing and improving code-related and facade-related improvements. We've also put in the old TIF redevelopment plan, which was prepared by Teske & Associates back in 1986. That is kind of where we're at. The TIF district, the primer that's probably the easiest to understand and is and it's very direct, is the one with the Tax Increment Financing Association, and talks about the TIF concept, how TIFs work in typical TIF projects. We would have to go through a redevelopment plan and review, and our outside party consultant would have to identify that the downtown area is eligible for a TIF. And they use the but-for test. There has to be some blighting. That's one of the, in the terms of vacant buildings. Property value decrease, assessed value decrease. Those are all things that would be considered in the TIF as to include in your redevelopment plan, and also to make it eligible so that you can consider creating the TIF and meeting the state statutory requirements. TIFs run for 23 years. That's the standard time frame, so it would be created for that time frame. Your increment would come in after the first year it's created, and in your redevelopment plan spells out, and there's a budget in there, and it spells out how you would attempt to spend that to implement that redevelopment plan by spending the TIF money, whether it's on infrastructure, facade rebates, developer incentives, a number of different things. Environmental cleanup that we may have identified in the TIF district. So all those things come into play. It's not a simple overnight thing. It's it's an involved process. It's not complicated. It's pretty common sense approach to getting redevelopment, and we would have to choose a redevelopment plan consultant, a TIF consultant, if you will. Teske did the previous one. We don't have to go with Teske. There's others out there in the marketplace. And so just to get the conversation started, there's things there that I haven't touched on. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. Brian can give you the legal implications and the legal requirements for creating a TIF. You have to pass ordinances, have public hearings, have a joint review board meeting, all the things that we do with the current TIFs and have to do with forming a new one.
And it has to be a little bit of a different area than the last one, right?
Well,
it does. To be the same exact area?
It could be.
Okay.
I think for the benefit of the downtown as we see it today, we ought to think about changing that up a little bit. But I thought I would also ask Brian to go through the actual structure of a TIF relative to freezing the assessment and how that builds up and what you can spend it on, and go through some of the mechanism. I think that's important to understand.
Well, essentially, you hire the consultant who has to find the element that Jim has referred to, either blighting or a conservation area, and find those factors. If they can't find that, then the property that you've picked is not eligible. You have to designate an area. And so the question is, can it be the same as the village administrator spoke about? Maybe it will be slightly different. Whatever area you pick, it has to be contiguous. You can't have an island here and an island there. It's one contiguous area. It doesn't have to be square or rectangular. And you saw the map of what the old one looked like. It had arms and, kind of went into some residential areas and things. Once they have found the report and found that it's eligible, the board would adopt 3 ordinances, one establishing the TIF development area, one adopting the plan, and one authorizing basically the collection of the increment. So when you create it, that's your base year. It's created in 2014. Whatever the assessed value is of the area, that's frozen. The taxes that are generated from that still go to all the taxing districts in proportion that they do now, but the idea being that as it builds up and improvements are made within that area, that it would generate a higher assessed value, which then when you apply those rates creates an increment of taxes, and then that money can be spent on limited purposes spelled out in the TIF Act: relocation, redevelopment, demolition, environmental cleanup. There's a host of eligible TIF expenses. That is where we had the facade program. Doesn't have to follow that same format. We had said originally $15,000, and that was increased to $30,000, but 30%, it's a reimbursement program. So that can be set up. It can't just be ad hoc. You need some rules, and that's what we did last time if it was going to be a facade program. There's abilities to write down some interest limitations, so it allows you to spend basically public monies for private benefit. So there's been talk the board would like to try and encourage and bring in developers. Well, one of the restrictions you have is we can't just spend general corporate funds to benefit a private business that we'd like to see here. If it's a TIF, however, that's one of the exceptions. So if you have the TIF in existence, we could go out and try and get a business and provide for some public benefit, but it also allows you to you can spend money on the build-out and things of that nature that we had done before. In what staff gave you was the breakdown of the monies that were spent. It was projected an EAV of about 130% increase, and it actually went up, as I recall, to about 240% of what the assessed value was in the base year. So you're looking at it trying to project conservatively 23 years in the future. It doesn't have to be the full 23 years, but it usually is. And the idea is you can use those monies for those purposes to spur on development. And then ultimately, when the TIF is concluded, there's more improvements in that area and a higher assessed value, and that benefits then all the taxing districts because now there's a large increase in assessed value. Jim mentioned the but-for test, which is basically it wouldn't have developed but for the TIF in implementing the TIF. And we can see from the last one quite a bit of increase in assessed value, but it ran its course, it ran out of time, and you can see the downtown area and the report from the EDC that they'd like to see other improvements made, but we don't have that ability without something like a TIF, and there are very limited statutory provisions that allow the village to spend its money for basically private purposes, and TIF is one of those things. Again, there's a list in the TIF Act that's some don't apply for what we're looking at, but it's at least 15 different items of what we could spend the money on. One is, parking. There was a huge, when we set it up, the TIF Act has been amended probably 20 times since we set up our TIF. And as time evolved, for instance, environmental cleanup wasn't known when we started this to the extent as we went along. And it turned out to be a huge boon and allowed for the development was what we discovered and some of the level of contamination that was found and able to be cleaned up. That type of impediment on property could have kept that property from ever being developed, but for the use of the TIF dollars. I mean, it really was huge, but that wasn't necessarily foreseen. If it was not to the level that we ultimately discovered and used it. So it's those type of things that are allowed. Relocation, you can pay for, moving someone, and that can be a big expense for a business moving in, depending on what it is. Equipment costs, build out, that type of thing. So, if you have specific questions, when this was happening and it was winding down, it went back to the Economic Development Commission, and they had ideas of how they'd like to spend it and try and expand the facade program, whether there could be loans and other things. But it was difficult in the last years to make a drastic change. If you're creating it in the beginning, you can have a more expanded program to help, in the nature of facades and that thing that would help facelift some of the area that you're talking about, those businesses within the TIF. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
We can include vacant land
Yes.
that's, say, further down from Metro and Railroad. I don't know, is there another phase 2 for the condos where, those big mounds of dirt on the south side?
Well, that
There is. Are they still in effect? They're just not building now, or?
the planned development that the town center developer was approved to do included 5 residential buildings. He only built 3. So there are still 2 vacant parcels that could be redeveloped. It's a prime site to incentivize a new residential developer to come in and finish. Now, further east, where you're talking about where that mound of dirt is actually owned by Metra, and that site, as Brian mentioned about the environmental contamination, has some contamination on it. If we were to include that in the TIF, that would be a site that we could clean up and then incentivize for redevelopment too. So there's lots of possibilities, and those are a couple of the sites that we've looked at.
And you said it had to be a continuous line.
Contiguous, it has to be connected properties. So you can't have a block here and then a space and then another
Right.
block there. They just all have to be connected. So those would connect up.
So what I'm thinking is there's no way to connect anything on Devon. Coming in on Devon, we've got 5 or 6 vacant parcels.
You could make it big enough to
Yeah.
include, to run all the way to
Okay.
Devon. If you look in the packet at what it looked like before, that is an idea of a
It
contiguous
generally
area. You would
mirrored
tweak
the
it from there.
commercial and industrial zoning in the downtown before. And-
Yeah.
and that I call it the T configuration. But you could
Yes, all right.
create your own boundaries based on parcels that are available for redevelopment, parcels that are identified that need to be redeveloped that are in the same TIF district, as well as expand it to include other properties that are in and around the downtown. Yeah, went to Bertaux, left out Hillcrest Apartments, kind of took in Gorski's, went up both sides of Main, which is all the commercially zoned property. The east part along where the town center, those larger parcels where it said 315, those were all industrial buildings, the auto body shop, Flexweld, Setco. And then, going west, those are all the commercial properties as you go out to Western. And then across the railroad tracks, Oneida's commercial, and then up Oak, those are the commercial pieces that existed. you could expand it from that and incorporate other sites.
I don't have any more questions.
Any other questions for Brian or
I've been through the
staff?
TIF.
I would say we
Ringer.
try to make it as large as we can for the next 23 years if we're going to do this.
Well, personally, I think I just need some more time to kind of look at it. We just got this on Wednesday, and
There's a lot of
a lot of
information that we
information
gave you.
there that I'd like to sit down and
Yeah.
really go over and review and understand more thoroughly and
Yes.
maybe come back. So I don't know, would we have a continuing discussion in another couple of weeks, in a month, or how would we go about?
Whenever the board would like that, we certainly could have a continuing discussion on this at your pleasure.
Month.
I think that
In a month's time?
idea of extending it to that area over there by Devon is a pretty good idea. That thing's been sitting there forever.
Yeah, it's, and the Elgin O'Hare, it doesn't look like that's going
South of Devon.
to happen anytime soon, so.
Has staff heard anything from the other taxing districts?
We have not.
We have to.
Well, yeah, but I assume that by now or within a week or so, they'll hear about this.
Yeah,
Right.
that's-
And I'm assuming that we will also start to get some input from them as
I
well.
think you probably will.
That's going to be different.
I know what there is.
Their county line.
Yeah.
So is it agreeable to the rest of the board members that we would push this off for approximately a month?
Yeah.
Sound good?
That's just fine.
Continuing
We'd be happy
discussion
to
in a
do
month.
that.
We can do that.
Great.
Thank you.
Hey, Jim, do you need to have a separate TIF if it crosses county lines?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
We'll have
he
to
just asked me
research
that
it.
good question, and I said, that's okay. And then I said,
Actually-
well, you might have to have two.
Actually, though, our existing
That's a
TIF
good
for our
question.
Brewster Creek
No,
Business
that's
Park
true.
crosses county lines, so
Yeah.
I'm guessing the answer is you don't have to have a separate one.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
We've
we did.
already done it.
That's right.
Don't ask, don't tell. Is that
I
kind of
couldn't
like
remember.
before?
No, we did it. You
We
can
did it.
do it.
Right.
We
But
can't- yeah.
It's
The
Might be
different-
another hoop to
counties.
jump, yeah.
The different taxing structures, you'll
Right.
notice, in Brewster Creek, DuPage is developed and Cook is not, but for the wetland and the
Right.
fire station, pretty much.
Right, we have done it that way.
And we're crossing county lines, but for...
You can do it.
Okay.
So I just couldn't recall it.
And I think that would be the end of the of our discussion here.
Thank you, Jim. I know that you really enjoy revisiting the TIF discussion.
It's fascinating stuff.
Here's
Riveting.
All right, if that's the end of the committee of the whole, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
One
So
other-
moved.
Second?
Oh, does that have to do with one of our items?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Just
Did you miss that in new business or something?
Yeah, I missed under new business. I just got this note. I just want to see if there's any truth to this rumor that your last 3 checks, Paul, you want to be paid in salt? Your last 3 checks, you want to be paid in salt?
Funny. I'm guessing here, moved by Chairman Kammer, seconded by Chairman Ranky. Trustee Ranky, could the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Cameron,
Yes.
Carbonaro,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ranky,
Yes.
Shipman.
Yes.
We are adjourned.